Welcome to the Gray Stage podcast number 11. My name is Dan Hennen. Today is November 22nd, 2020, and I'm joined with Greg Fernandez Jr., the author of the Gray Stage book, and along with Catherine and Sophia. How is everyone doing today?
Doing good.
Doing good. Absolutely. We've got an interesting topic for the podcast today. The topic is the kitchen. And if you're following along in the book, Greg Fernandez book, Chapter 6, The Kitchen. And we'll be starting today on page 52 in the book. Greg, do you want me to read that quote? Yeah, here's a quote by David Crowley given on March 7th, 2014. He says, quote, "The use of force, no matter the context, should be a shameful last resort, indicating an utter defeat of intelligent faculty. This is the difference between men and children, and also why our childlike society celebrates violence in its exercise of authority." End quote.
To me,
anyone have any comments on that first quote?
It's a pretty powerful quote. I think there's a lot of things. If you read through David's Facebook posts and his Twitter posts, you're going to find a lot of non-violent posts here that I think we know that the investigators went through all of David's social posts, all of his Facebook, all of his Twitter, all of that stuff. So they had access to all of this, looking for anything that might help them understand why anybody on this world would ever think that David Crowley is guilty. And I think we have a lot of quotes in here, even going back all the way to 2006 when David was still stationed. There's a lot of peaceful quotes, and I thought that this was just one of those many that we put in here. So this is my favorite one, I think.
Very intelligent man he was, and ahead of his time, one could say.
And young.
I will start reading about the second paragraph down on page 52, then we'll have some discussion. Item 25 is blood swabbed on the kitchen island countertop next to the laptop. This item was not tested. Neither was the blood stain on the tissue box, item number 26. And so the tissue box you can see there on the screen for those following along is item 26. There was a blood stain on that, and it was not tested. Going on, in fact, 2 bloodstains on the lower part of the base on the kitchen island, items 16 and 17. A drop of blood on the kitchen floor next to the dishwasher, item 21. Another spot of blood inside the dishwasher, item 22. And a blood stain on the underside of the kitchen island, item 28. All were submitted for analysis, but never tested. Any comments on that statement right there?
Yeah, I think if we go back to let's start with the tissue box here. So let me take a few steps back to look at that tissue box. What's pretty interesting about the tissue box is it's similar to the one bloody finger that is found in the hallway. So let me go back there before I start rambling on a little bit here. But it's what's pretty interesting is that, okay, if there's blood here on the tissue box, on the side of the tissue box, no blood mentioned on any other sides of the tissue box, and I've looked at this from all other angles too, and couldn't really see any other blood. Just that one little line there. No blood on the actual tissue. We could see that too. And generally no blood on that counter. So it's just kind of it's kind of random, and I don't really understand how this would get here. And what is the purpose? What is somebody wiping up? And why not test?
I'm sorry. I've always pictured when I see that item number 26 on that tissue box where somebody's reaching and their finger or thumb or whatever, and it's like you're grabbing a tissue and you're pulling it up. It's like it hits the side and their then it goes up as they're pulling a tissue up out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I've always pictured this particular stain getting on the side of the tissue.
But how old would the stain have to be in order for the blood to get just in that one spot, not to leak when they pull out? Because, you know, when you pull out the tissue, it does require a little bit of force, and I would think that there should be at least a little bit of blood spatter or something, some droplets somewhere else.
Well, and we don't have a clear picture of the top of it, but a lot of it would depend on how dry the blood was on their hand, their thumb, their finger, whatever it was that touched that tissue box.
Mm-hmm. So would this be leaning more towards a drier blood, more towards a wetter?
Yeah, well, something that's not like fresh, wet or whatever, but I mean, and this is just my take. I could be completely wrong, but when I see that, that's what I envision. Because whenever like if you reach for tissue and half the time you don't even realize what you're touching.
Mm-hmm.
And this could have been just such a light touch. And it looks like it swoops up. So.
Interesting. Then looking at item number 16, the only thing about this is why this one, okay? Because we can clearly see on this wall here, if I back up a little bit, maybe one or two, in the high-res photos, you can clearly see that where item 16 is, along this whole wall, you know, there's blood little spots here, there's blood spots here, blood spots. There's some other blood spots there too, so unless that's my dirty screen, maybe. Well, a couple of these might be my dirty screen, but I think a few of these are the actual blood spots on this wall. So that was my other question, was why did they select this one? Obviously, this one was a little thicker, maybe. Does this show us, what does this show us?
Nothing other than it's cast off. I'm not sure why they chose just that one blood drop, but maybe it was more prominent than the others and easier to stick a sticker on. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, look at you're right. Look at all those other spots on that wall, but why they chose that one, I have no idea.
And I would have the same question with item 17, because again, there's a lot of more blood here on this wall that you can see. It's all over this one. So why just this one little area? And then again, it's another interesting thing to go back to see. Well, they have it and they don't test it, but there's a lot of blood on this one here. Lots of droplets, right. Similar droplet. Maybe even a thicker cast-off droplet to the right of where the 17 is. Which, when you flip this image over, you know, where it's actually,
unless what they were doing was those particular drops were just going to be a sample of what appeared on that wall. So instead of taking a sample from every single blood drop, the chances are it all came from the same source. So maybe that's why they just picked one and stuck a tag on it. It's a guess. I'm not sure if it's right.
And who would know that this is cast-off blood? Would that be the Apple Valley, the BCA? Because I don't know if cast-off blood is mentioned in any of the reports or documents that I've seen.
Yeah, they don't mention any other. They actually don't even really mention what type of blood is on the scene. They'll say that there is a large amount of blood. According to a lot of crime scenes I've seen, there isn't a lot of blood here other than on the chair. But yeah, BCA would have known that by walking in. I mean, the police officer should have, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe they didn't. Maybe that wasn't something they studied, but definitely BCA would know it would be cast off. Just like, yeah, and that would be passive like we talked about before. But why they don't differentiate in their reports is a good question.
And no testing done on it. Same with item 21 and 22, where we have these just a few little drops. With item 21, you can clearly see there's some other drops to the left of it, to the south a little bit, and then 1, 2, 3 drops that are just kind of there. I don't know. I mean, this is the furthest. This is some of the furthest drops from where the bodies were found, and how did the blood get way over here? With hair on top of it, dog hair. You can clearly see there's some dog hair right there. But so this is just a drop. This is, would you call passive? Is that what you said? Passive blood droppings?
Correct.
The same with 22 then, I'm assuming here, right?
Correct.
None of it tested. I mean, is it, it's swabbed. They had enough to swab it, and it's just kind of baffling to me about, you know, I know we've talked about this in the past, what was tested, what wasn't tested, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what was saved and what wasn't saved too. I don't know. I would think at least 22 or 21, because they're both in the same area. I could see maybe not testing both of them. Same with 16 and 17. So it just seems, you know, you would want to test one of them. They're in that area there. So,
I agree.
that's all I have for those items for 16 through 28. Unless you have, Sophia, anything else?
No.
Okay.
All right, I'll continue on. David's bloody cell phone, item 35, was found close to the tissue box. A blood mixture of 2 or more individuals was found on the phone. David was excluded from being a possible contributor. According to DNA results, quote, Kamel, Rasul Crowley, and Rania Crowley cannot be excluded from being possible contributors, end quote.
Now this is kind of another one that is where it's like we always talk about, and a lot of people have brought this up, where the blood is, where the blood isn't. Why is there blood here? Why isn't there blood there? And there's blood all over this phone, and a little bit of blood on the counter. You can kind of see that here too. So the phone was set down by a bloody hand. You can see that there's some scratches and everything on it, but there may be 1 or 2 drops on the headphones, possibly. When I was looking at it closer, I thought, okay, maybe there are a few others, but not that much. And if you know, it's like, what is all this stuff here? Is all stuff that would David would have pulled out from his pockets, from his pants pockets, and that's kind of weird. I thought. I don't understand why there's 2 lighters there. They're not in the same place either. But just sticking to the cell phone, I try to look at the cell phone from all different sides, and again, it's just very frustrating to see how much blood is on this cell phone, and how does that blood get there, you know, and why isn't it on the headphones that were in there? Everything else that's pulled out of the pockets, everything else here isn't bloody. Why is that one? I don't know. That just kind of bothered me a little bit.
Well, and I agree with you that the cell phones always bothered me as well, only because we know when Sophia was able to get those phone records, and we know that his phone wasn't used for any texts or calls or anything, so why would it even need to be picked up? Why would blood be on it? And if David wasn't making texts or phone calls, I mean, again, I feel like it's something the police should have just said, okay, this is weird, let's look into it.
One thing I have heard, Catherine, is that some have speculated that he was running his playlist and playing music from the cell phone. Now we know that's not true, because he was running it through the media player on his laptop. So you are correct. The only use of this phone would be for calls and texts, and there were none. So that's a good point.
Yeah, and I've thought about that too, what you were saying about, you know, I've heard the thing about the music as well. So if he's using his cell phone, yeah, why would he need his laptop? And vice versa, if he has his laptop, why would he need his phone? It just doesn't fit.
Is there any significant... Go ahead, Sophia.
I'm sorry, possible mistake, you know, by the killers, once again, trying to bloody up everything, but at the same time, doing it in the wrong things. And the question here is, why didn't the detectives pick up on that? Go ahead, Sophia.
I was just thinking that maybe they were trying to get some information off of that phone.
Hmm.
Yep, good point.
Very good point. I don't remember if it's meant. Now that you brought that up, I don't remember if it's mentioned that the phone was locked or not. But most iPhones, or I would assume they would be. There. I mean, it is possible to change that setting, but when you have two of the computers in this house that aren't password locked, I don't know. That's a pretty interesting thought there. Same with these scratches that are on this phone too. I mean, that could just be one of these other items rubbing up against the screen of that phone, but it's an interesting place for the phone to be found, to be left here. I don't know what this other black thing, it looks like some type of remote control possibly, but these lighters, you know, it's the more I look at some of this stuff, especially in these photos that we're gonna look at here, the more it's almost like possibly they were leaving signs, they were leaving clues, things so that people would notice that things did not add up. And we're gonna see that more as we go. Go ahead.
If you look at the headphones are placed on top of the phone, but they're not as bloody as the phone.
Yeah.
So they were obviously handled with cleaner hands.
Yeah, I think I found maybe one bloody area, one bloody dot where this big, where the big lighter is, where the text for the big lighter is. There may be some blood right there, but that's about it. I mean, there's no other blood that I can see in these photos here, and the headphones aren't on, so it's not like he's using them. I don't know what the silver
So they
thing
were
is.
placed on top after whoever handled that phone, and I don't know, it's just weird.
Maybe even at a separate time, right?
Mhm.
And it's weird to have the two lighters kind of separate too. I don't know, just weird things like that. Just wonder if David was in a hostage situation and maybe leaving clues around this house that he was hoping people would pick up on later on.
I think this is Dan. I think the subliminal message here also by the killers is to leave those lighters. Now, once again, neither of them smoked cigarettes. There aren't candles around the house, so it's leaving the detectives with, oh, these guys are smoking a lot of weed. You know, here right in the kitchen. Once again, out in front of the public, out in front of the child, they're smoking weed again. That's the impression I got. That could be wrong, but it's the subliminal that I think that they're left there on purpose, showing these lighters all over the place. Over.
That's a good point. Do we know if any of David's, I should say the Grace State team, do any of them smoke?
That I don't know. I'm trying to think of any videos that I've seen of them. I don't. Never seen.
I don't think cigarettes, but I would assume weed. Yes.
Okay, because you brought up a good point, so now I'll probably think about that more often, but I always thought about those lighters as being accidentally left behind, but the point you make makes more sense.
And they may have been accidentally left behind. The question is, were fingerprints taken from those lighters, and if so, whose fingerprints were on there? But we don't have that.
Yeah, and no blood on those lighters. So it's just weird. Blood on the cell phone, a little bit of blood on the tissue box, and really nowhere else on any of these items on this counter here.
I think what it screams once again is the phrase overstaging. So much was done and left behind on purpose. You have a bloody phone, but yet nice white clean earbuds laying neatly on top of him. Why? Why all this strangeness?
I've never heard of anybody.
I'll leave it at that, yeah.
I've never heard of anybody taking stuff out of their pockets right before they kill themselves or kill somebody else or anything like that. It just seems weird. So overstaging doesn't make sense. It would make the most sense, I guess, if that makes any sense at all to overstage. But we know, that's what we're dealing with here. We see that in so many of these photos here. Anything else on the cell phone? If not, the next screenshot I have up here, Dan, if you want to read the next paragraph.
The next section says, some of those items were retained in their entirety and could be tested later. According to the BCA report, the contents of items 11, 12, 14, 15, 23, 24, 27, 35, 38, 39, 50, 51, and 52 have been retained in their entirety. End quote.
Now they had a typo in there, right? Because I was looking, well, maybe they meant something else. But I looked up entriety just to see if it was a real word. And
no, it's a typo.
It wasn't. Yeah. But you never know, you know.
I'm glad you corrected it in your book, though. Good job.
Thank you. I did not want to leave that one. We're going to talk about the big blunder that I made in my book at the end here. But, yeah, so that's good. I think 50, 51, and 52, those are CDs of images. I do believe that's correct. But it's good that these ones that they have, but again, it goes back to some of the ones that we've just looked at, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, and 28 are not on this list. And I don't know, am I just overthinking this of why those ones wouldn't be? Because they're smaller, they're not relevant, they don't really help them prove David Crowley guilty? Is this more evidence that they were only really looking at and collecting and testing things that they were sure would help them prove David Crowley guilty, even though they failed at that? I'm trying to understand their logic behind all of this.
Oh, you bring up a good point, because they didn't test those items, and there's no reason to get rid of it, because if you're going to destroy the evidence you have in the case, you're going to destroy everything. So why would they not keep in their entirety blood swabs from items that were never tested? I didn't even see that, Greg. Good point.
I just want to say hi to everybody in our live chat room too. Thank you all for joining us. Ellie, always good to have you here. And Denise, always good to have you too. So yeah, thanks everybody for listening in as we record this podcast, which will be put out for the Gray Stage podcast on the 1st of the month. So we've covered a lot here so far, but the big one of the big ones for me here is that newspaper. The newspaper, I think, gives the two newspapers really help give us a good timeline and really help us figure out, you know, or should they should have given us a good timeline. But we have a lot of problems with this. There's problems just looking at the photos, because once again we have things that are moved, things that are taken out. What I want everybody to look at in this photo here, two things, I guess. I don't know what this other trash can is to the left, and so that's going to be another thing about what is in this kitchen drawer here. You can see that it's open, okay, because we do have photos. The police do have photos, not the BCA, but the Apple Valley photos do show this same drawer closed and photographed. So here, this is still a BCA image. I'm just running through the BCA images here first, and so we can see that it's still kind of open. The dishwasher is open as well, and you can see it's open just a little crack there. So this is how they walked in and found this. So you know, obviously they're going to look through this trash. So my question here is, are these both recycling? Dan, do you know this style, or does anybody know this style? I mean, we have one recycling thing here. We don't have one of these pull-out drawers though, but if we did, I would think one would be garbage, one would be
I can answer that, and typically when the drawer pulls out like this, you've got two receptacles, one for the trash, one for recycling. And so that's usually how it goes. It looks like the front one there is trash. The one in the back is newspapers and cardboard and juice containers and things like that for recycling, potentially. But that's how that would make sense as far as the setup.
That would make sense, but that's not what we're seeing here. There's paper in both of them. There's a milk carton or some type of a carton in both of them too. And so if these aren't, it is possible that they just got lazy, but it's one of those other things where I'm kind of wondering, were these signs here? Were there some type of signs that they were possibly leaving here so that people would notice that one should be recycling and the other shouldn't? Why is there recycling dumped in both of these trash cans here?
Good question.
So then what they do is once the BCA photo, here's where the newspaper is, and then in the next BCA photo they put it out on the table. So they take it out, they take a photo of the date, December 26, 2014, and when Dan reads on here, this date is going to be very, very important. But then what we're looking at now are the photos from the Apple Valley, and you can see dishwasher is closed, that drawer is pushed in, not pulled in, but pushed in, and here the newspaper is here too. So my question, I guess, is are they both snapping pictures at the same time? Do they put the newspaper back into the trash can and then another team photographs it? What the AVPD photographer does is then take this out of the trash, and these are separated by DSC. So any photo that you see with the DSC label was taken by the Apple Valley. Any photo with the BCA obviously taken by the BCA. So maybe my timeline is kind of off, and it's just, well, no, it's just, okay, the AVPD takes this photo, they take this next photo, and then at the end the BCA takes the photo of this same newspaper on that shelf. The only problem there is you see that they actually label it here. So when they label this item 10 here, that should be it, right? Wherever they put that marker, this should not move from that point. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I making stuff up?
I think you're asking a question we don't know, but it would make sense because nothing else moved.
I mean, why put the 10 here? I'd put the 10, you move it up, and then...
I have a question, Greg.
Yeah.
The only question I have is, there was the photo, if you go back in the garbage can, where it was tucked neatly in, and then there's a photo of the garbage can where it's flipped up like that.
Okay, let me go back.
Hanging out.
Okay, so that one was the...
I've never noticed that before.
Here's the
See,
BCA.
It's neatly tucked in. It's not flipping over the edge, is it? Or am I just not seeing it right?
Let me go back to that. I think you're right. No, it's not. It's not. So it's kind of folded. It's kind of in, but then if we look at the Apple Valley photo here, it's tucked underneath that.
I don't get that.
Unless they put it back. That's the only thing I could think of. For whatever reason, they put it back. One of the teams put it back.
What I would say is that it looks disturbed. It looks like not how it was. It either would have been one of those or the other, but not both.
Yeah, because in the first one, you clearly see it like folded in half when it was in the trash can, and then it's definitely different. It's not the same.
Because they have some of the other items. Some other ads,
yeah,
and stuff.
But you're right. Once they take it out to photograph it, they only really need one photo. Either on the counter, like you see right there, they could have stuck the number 10 on that, take the photo, or set it on top between the two trash cans and take a photo with the number 10 on it.
Now it's not. Go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
Why would they? Why are there 3 photos of the newspaper out? 2 in the trash, 1 with the 10 on it, and then 1 on the counter. Once again, I don't understand the concept of, right there is probably all would have been sufficient, would it not?
Yeah, and it even moves from here to here.
So why, all the movements is, and these, like you said, Greg, it could be the BCA photos versus the Apple Valley Detective Police. are these different? I still don't understand that, and maybe someone from the chat room can comment on that.
That's pretty interesting to me. Just all the movement of that, and we haven't even gotten into the really interesting part here about the what happens with this newspaper. So Dan, if you want to continue reading on there.
Okay. Additionally, a Sun This Week newspaper dated December 26, 2014 was collected from the kitchen garbage. According to the delivery driver, the weekly newspaper was delivered to the Crowley residence on December 23rd, 2014, between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. However, the delivery driver's mother told Detective Tommy Booth her son delivered the newspaper on December 24th. Should I stop there? Or continue on?
Go ahead and continue through the next.
All right. Additionally, Detective Brian Bone spoke with the circulation coordinator for the Sun This Week. Her name is Kathy Silberg. Silberg stated the newspaper found in the kitchen garbage, quote, could have been delivered on December 24, 25, or 26, end quote. Detective Bone learned the papers were delivered for pickup by the delivery drivers on December 24th, 2014. Silberg explained that the papers are left at a centralized location for the delivery drivers to pick up and then deliver. If Silberg's dates are accurate, it is not possible for the driver to deliver the newspaper to the Crowley mailbox on December 23rd. And I'll stop there, right?
If you could read the next paragraph.
Okay, the next one. It seems detectives never asked the driver how he delivered the newspaper on December 23rd if the paper wasn't ready to be picked up until December 24th. Nevertheless, Detective Bone concluded his report by stating, quote, as of this time, it is believed the paper that was found in the kitchen garbage could have been brought in any time after 1500 hours on December 23rd, 2014.
So how does a paper that is not set to go out until December 24th, 25th, or 26th, according to Kathy Silberg, how does that paper get delivered on December 23rd? More so, why does the delivery driver's mom say that it was delivered on December 24th? And the investigators decide, screw it, we're just going to say December 23rd. If we have four possible dates here, and three people giving three different dates, basically, or possible dates. December 23rd is not a possible date given by the person who handles the circulation of this paper. Why is that not a bigger deal? Why don't the investigators follow up? Maybe Kathy Silberg got those dates wrong. It should not be hard to figure it out, but if she's saying the paper isn't ready till December 24th, then this paper delivery guy must be a time traveler. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Well, I think we've got a couple issues going on here. I'd like to remove the first one first. As a teenage boy doing this for a part-time job, when he was asked when he delivered this, I think he probably just said off the cuff, the 23rd between 2 and 3 p.m. Now, one could argue with me by saying, if police were asking you, wouldn't you certainly get it right? That could be the case. But I don't think it was the 23rd. He probably got it wrong. But you're right. The police report should still be correct. They should still say, you know, that was the 23rd. It didn't get printed till the 24th or whatever. Do you want to correct your statement to the delivery boy? And he could have said, yes, I got it wrong. And then they could have had the police report printed correctly rather than this. Now, in 1992, I myself personally did deliver in the Apple Valley area these This Week newspapers. That's just a part-time job. So you're giving them a notification or something saying they're ready to be picked up. Here's your stack. Deliver them when you can to the homes. So my second statement is obviously they weren't delivered on the 25th by anyone officially, but because these are just part-time people doing this, if he got half the stack done on the 24th, maybe he did get up early on the 25th and deliver the rest of the stack on the 25th. So this isn't like an official mailman making a stop on a holiday when mailmen do not work. So it could have been delivered on the 25th.
Oh, it could. Okay.
So they're just you get them and then you make your delivery, you make your rounds, and until they're all gone, and you do them at your leisure, either all at one shot or you break it up into a couple days or something. But you get it out. So I think it could have been on the 25th, but I think certainly not on the 23rd. But the time, because he gave a specific time between 2 and 3 p.m., is probably when he typically did his route. So I think the time was probably correct.
Does anybody think he delivered the paper on the 23rd? Catherine, Sophia?
Nope.
I think it was just an accident or a mistake of him saying the 23rd.
And I would agree. The circulation coordinator, when she got asked by police, this Kathy Silberg would certainly give the correct date of the publication. She would go back and check, knowing it's coming from police, you want to get it right. I think her dates are correct, and I think the teenage boy doing this off the cuff says, I did it on the 23rd. Probably wasn't right. But it doesn't satisfy the fact that it's in a police report as incorrect. I don't like, personally I don't like the fact that it was in there wrong. And it should have been followed up or corrected before it got printed off like this. But sadly enough, it got in the final report as the 23rd.
I mean, even
I think what bothers me about that is it doesn't bother me that they quoted that the teenager said he did it on the 23rd. I think all of us are in agreement that a teenage boy is not going to know the dates. It was a mistake, whatever. So they have to put in what he said. But toward the end, where they say that they narrowed it down that any time after 1500 hours on the 23rd, that I think is erroneous. They knew by that point that that paper was not delivered on the 23rd. Now they could have said why didn't they say the 24th? Anytime on the 24th or after. So that's where I take issue with the police officers.
Yeah, I mean, 2 people live in the same house. The mom, she sounds like she would know, but again, it's one more thing that's never followed up, and one more thing that makes it hard for us to get a real accurate timeline, which is nothing new. Anything else on that paper, or else, Dan, if we'll have you read the next paragraph about the other paper.
Yeah, but there shows the paper at the bottom section there. Sorry, should I go on with the next one?
Yes, please.
Okay, the last This Week newspaper delivered to the Crowley home was dated January 2nd, 2015. The newspaper delivery driver did not deliver that paper to the mailbox since he was out of town and on vacation with his family, according to Detective Bone. 2 more editions of the Sun This Week newspaper should have been in the Crowley mailbox. Why were the January 8th, 15th, and 15th editions of the Sun This Week missing from the mailbox? Now that's a very good, this is where it gets to be interesting, I think.
Yeah, there should be 2 more papers in there, right? And there isn't. And by the way,
the bodies are found on the 17th. So the issue of the 15th should be in there. And then 7 days before that, the 8th should be in there. And the 2nd should be in there. So in the mailbox, and just to clarify, not the mailbox per se, but the section underneath the mailbox in the wood square section, there should be 3 issues of This Week newspaper. Yeah. Right there should be 3.
And
Would there
Dan,
not?
I've had a question about this. And since you stated you delivered the papers, since the delivery boy was on vacation, don't they usually find someone else to take that route? And if so, why didn't they find that person and then interview them?
Correct. That paper still needs to be delivered, whether you're on vacation or not. A backup person would still deliver them. So the question is, why aren't there 3 here? And Catherine brings up a good point. If John Doe delivering the paper wasn't on vacation 1 week, who was John Doe's replacement the week he was gone? And was this person he or she questioned? It appears not. But there's still 2 missing from the slot.
Anything about the condition of the paper here too that would kind of help us compare this to the presents found in front of the house? Different type of paper, I'm sure, but I mean, it's face down.
Oh, that's a good point, because that seems to be wet or whatever, and then you have the presents that are right out to the open to the elements, and they're just fine. Good point.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, these were like in a little box thing, so unless the rain or snow was going completely sideways, they shouldn't have been, the paper shouldn't have been wet like that. And then you got the presents where the presents do look like they've been exposed to the elements, but not drenched like the paper.
Right. And you can see the snow in this image here. You can see the snow in the back. So snow did get through here. So, I mean, who knows how long it was there, but there's just nothing else there. And you can see the snow still on this paper here. And there's a nice little...
And going back, I've got the weather pulled up for the weather for Apple Valley, Minnesota for that whole time frame.
Awesome.
The only snow that came, and it was very little, just a small trace, was on January 5th. So that 2-week span after the holidays, starting with December 28th all the way through January 17th when the bodies were discovered, the only snow was January 5th, and it was 0.01 1/100th of an inch of snow came. That's more of just like a dusting. So there really wasn't snow at all for the This Week magazines. No precipitation, I should add, either, as far as rain or sleet. Nothing on those days. So I don't think it would even be perhaps damp.
Could a snowblower have done that?
Possibly. Now, when the bodies were discovered, the temperature high that day was 37. So that is above freezing. If there was anything on the ground or in the mailbox, it would have been melting, and so things would have been damp. But one could argue there'd be nothing in there to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we don't have any reports of anybody seeing David or Camille going out and collecting mail between Christmas and
No.
I guess a week before they were found.
Nope. One of the neighbors, I think, thought that they were gone because they hadn't seen any lights on or anything. So, and that was around December 18th or 19th. So that could have been closer to the 21st, maybe, but still.
So who collected the mail in the newspaper?
The one that's found in the kitchen you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question. And there's a ton of stuff in the mailbox when they do end up opening up that mail. And they also get mail while the mailman pulls up while the investigation is ongoing. And then I think the investigator, Tara Becker, says that she actually took some of the mail and put it into the mailbox, which I think is a federal crime, but that's a whole nother issue.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Greg, can you go back one to the previous photo, please? Okay. Just like you were stating, when you look at the next slot over, they look to have 2 or at least 3 newspapers in their slot box that have been sitting there, but yet, I mean, so you're right. So if anybody questions whether or not there should have been more newspapers, just look at theirs.
Well, here's the interesting
So-
thing about that, though, is it looks like the same paper that's on the top for 1041 is the same paper that's here.
Yeah. But what Catherine is saying is that, the Crowleys haven't been home for 3 weeks. Their mailbox should be full, and the slot beneath it should be, full, or at least have more things in it. The very next person to the right, who obviously wasn't gone for 3 straight weeks, has more contents in their mailbox than the Crowleys.
Right.
Exactly. So that doesn't make sense. So that, I mean, again, logic would dictate that the police should have looked at that and said, well, obviously the Crowleys were home to pick up, something. Bell should have been going off, basically, is what I'm saying.
Correct.
They were just so desperate to label this as a murder-suicide that they didn't bother to look any deeper.
Yep.
They had it all figured out. For me, that's it. That's all I got on the paper. We just got a few more paragraphs here, Dan, if you want to.
All right. Next one is several bottles of pill capsules were taken out of a kitchen drawer and photographed by investigators. The bottles were not mentioned in police reports, evidence lists, or Minnesota BCA files. Contents inside the refrigerator were also absent from those documents. In fact, many items seen inside the house were absent from reports. But as Detective Gummer later clarified, if we did not cover it in our reports, then we did not feel it was necessary to do so, end quote.
So
I've got one comment here. It would have been nice to see the photographs from inside the microwave, inside the oven, and inside the refrigerator and freezer, just to bring closure to everything. But I don't know if that's common practice or not. Any other questions on that, Catherine? I mean, does that make sense? And you don't need I don't think every single drawer or cabinet door or cupboard door opened, but the fridge would have given us some good clues. The oven, what they had eaten or what was in there, or microwave, for instance, just with the doors open. We got all these photographs of everything else, and those I think would have been actually interesting to see.
Yeah,
and I'd like to add also that Detective Gummer had said if we did not cover it in our reports, we did not feel it was necessary to do so. It's at this point that I'd like to point out that if there was alcohol in those cabinets or in the refrigerator, I'm fairly certain that would have been covered in the report and photographed.
Oh, yeah, to go along with how some people are saying that he was drinking. Yep, good point.
Yep.
But I agree with you, Dan. I'm thinking that why wouldn't they at least photograph the stove, the microwave, etc., since the dishwasher itself was open and there was obvious blood droplets in that. Why would they not take photos? It's clearly that the family was interrupted, and so why not document everything?
It's pretty interesting.
And wasn't it Sidra who said that there was like a pizza that had burned in the oven?
Yes, I remember hearing that as well, and I don't speak of it currently. I don't bring that up because I don't have faith in it. But at one point, someone said there was a pizza in the oven, as if they were trying to, their last meal was a pizza. And I went back and asked, well, if the pizza was in, the oven would have been on, and the thing would have been burnt up, and it wouldn't have been just sitting in there without it being on. So I said, what does that mean? How would you know if a pizza was in there? And then I never heard anything back. So that may have been disinformation.
Okay. Seems to be a lot of that with this case.
One thing I was trying to figure out was the actual drawer. Which drawer was the checkbook found in, and which drawer was the were those pill bottles found in? And again, looking at some of the photos here of the of this kitchen area, you can kind of watch this this, what is this, like a light green, like a pea green bucket or whatever, or bowl, and you can see where it is in this image here next to the first drawer, and it's kind of moved over here in the second drawer, so you can see where the checkbooks were found in the second drawer. But to me, it's still not clear exactly which drawer those pills were found in too. And it's just a lot of, you know, open drawers. They take the photos of that, but you know, if these, I don't know, it's just, especially with kids in the house, it's not.
Yeah, Greg, if you could go back, yeah, see, in the photo there, see those 4 drawers up high, the little pull-out square ones? You know, they may have been in there with the child in the house. The pills maybe not have been in the drawers down below, but perhaps up there. But once again, you're correct. They were never stated as to where they were found. They're just photographed just laying on the counter, nice and neat.
Yeah, that would make sense actually, now that you brought that up. Yeah, that it was in one of these top 4 up there. There is another lighter here too on this table, purple lighter. So I got 3 lighters here, all in the same area. I don't know. It just I don't know why that keeps.
Yeah, and they're all in places that don't make any sense.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Like, why do you don't have it? That's not a gas stove, is it? It's electric.
It looks like electric.
So you don't need a. Yeah.
Well, it may go back to that photo. I think it is gas.
Look at it? Okay, let's go look at that.
That it would still have a pilot light that would stay lit or would automatically light. Yeah, that is gas.
That's gas.
Oh, it is?
So you may have a longer snouted lighter to light it, but not. You wouldn't use a big lighter to light an oven, would you?
No.
Or a stove?
No.
So the question is, once again, they're all laying around the place, these big lighters, and the 2 don't smoke, and there's no candles. So I don't know. I think they're left behind to reinforce that these were weed smoking druggies in the house. But I could be wrong.
I think that's all I had for that one. Just a little odd, just going through some of the photos, you could tell when they start digging through drawers and things like that. Like this little shelf up, or this, the notepad is moved over, everything is moved, the lighter, or yeah, pretty much everything is kind of moved over and then photographed. So not a big deal, but just another interesting thing. You can see the dog milk bones here in the back as well. And I don't know, just looking for any clues that they may have left things out on the counter to be a warning sign or to be a clue later on, possibly. This My Little Pony thing is also in a weird spot. I don't know why that's way back there. It seems kind of weird for that to be, but maybe I'm overthinking it.
Well, it looks like Ranya's lunchbox, so to me, it would kind of make sense to be in the kitchen.
And it was her last day of school, the 19th, so maybe they set it behind that blender or whatever it is, because she was going to be off for 2 weeks or something.
Yeah.
That's true. Good points. The coffee pot, I think we had tried to kind of use that as well as maybe to help figure out a timeline, but with the coffee pot out, with the filters out, the coffee out, yeah, to me it, you know, it goes back to what you're saying. It looks like they were in the middle of something, and they got either interrupted or something happened that caused them to stop whatever they were doing. And I don't know if that will also help us give a timeline of where they caught off guard in the morning, in the day, in the evening. If I had to guess, I'd probably say more closer to morning, but that's just a guess on that. But leaving all these lighters out, and I know Ranya's not that tall, maybe she couldn't reach those, but still, it just doesn't seem right to me. Doesn't seem like there's something wrong with that, something odd. But we can move on to...
All right, the next, no, moving forward, is a notepad, item 46, and a folded note behind the notepad, item 47, were collected as possible handwriting from Kamel Rasul Crowley. Authorities do not make it clear if they think all of the writing on item 46 and 47 came solely from Kamel. Another item collected from the kitchen was a checkbook found in the front drawer of the kitchen counter, item 48, with possible handwriting from David Timothy Crowley.
Okay, we could probably stop right there for a couple seconds. So I'm going to go back a few to here, to this note here. So you have on the refrigerator, you have, you know, a lot of other things there too, but for some reason this note, there's a note folded behind this little notepad here. So you have that. It's not clear whose handwriting, or if they say that it's multiple people's handwriting. This kind of looks like, you know, it's three different names here. E could be egg, but that would still be two. So it's, you know, this is directed to E, so I don't think that that's right. This almost looks like three different people here writing notes on this notepad. But it gets a little weird there because you can see what they're saying, nothing too big. But then there's, why is the note stuffed behind it is kind of weird. It's just there. When they open it up, this is what it says, and this is addressed to D. So now you have a fourth name. Maybe they all have love names, little nicknames. You know, K is definitely one. You can't see what is below the grug bug baby. So I don't know if anyone... I couldn't find a photo that shows the bottom half of this. Maybe I missed it. But this one is weirder because now they're labeling things. So when they label it item 46 and item 47, not only do they put a label on it, but they put it up here and they take a photograph of it. So they place number 47, this note, next on the refrigerator, and then photograph it. I don't know why. I thought that was kind of weird to put it right there next to it. What's even weirder though is you can clearly see it's not labeled here, so they got their photo, they got that. When they mark it, they got their photo there, but it's also marked 47 here. So,
and it's turned around.
Yeah, it's folded, right? Oh, it's turned around.
It's folded and turned around.
So it's not the same as this one?
Nope, look at that.
Oh, wow. Let's put back.
Yep. So it was not taken, they did not take a picture. Oh, this drives me crazy. Because item 47 should have, the entire thing should be visible. And this is garbage. If you were to take this to court, they would toss it out because you can't see it. I'm sorry. It frustrates me.
Yeah,
so it looks like they took the photo of it tucked behind, labeled it 47, and then took it out, set it next to it for comparison purposes as 47, and then for some reason tucked it back in incorrectly and took a picture of that.
Yeah, with 47 on it then. Yep.
So it's what I call sloppy, and you have to see the entire photo, the edges.
Correct.
And like you said, you can't have this submitted in a court of law with not even showing the bottom half of this note.
Correct.
So
it's useless.
And now here it is on the counter. So they've got a picture of it with the magnet on the fridge and on the counter, and tucked in wrong and original. So
it's dancing all over the place.
Once again, it's just so bizarre. I'll leave it at that. Bizarre.
Very good. I don't know why they would, you know, then take this one, the note, and then put it next to it on this little clip, on the magnetic clip. The whole thing, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I mean,
but what we are seeing is evidence of a happy couple writing love notes back and forth.
Right.
They were not in a stressful relationship. They were not under you know, thinking of breaking up, we see multiple love notes and nicknames for David and Kamel throughout this house.
Mm-hmm. And so you talked about the item 48. Yeah, so this is where the checkbook was found there. Dan and Sophia, I know you both did a really good show on some of the content of that the checkbook and all of that stuff. Anything that you want to add about that checkbook here?
I have one thing, just an overall thing before Sophia goes, is that we have to keep in mind that Kamel had her own checking account, David had his own checking account. They may or may not have had a joint account, and David had a business checking account. So it does explain, I think, all these checkbooks and boxes containing checkbooks in that one drawer. They did have a multitude or multiple checking accounts. Now, we did the show on a topic that related to the trust fund, the POD account. That was neither of these. That was a payable upon death for the father, a trust account for the children, and we did the show on that. There wouldn't be any checks relating to that from a checkbook. But you're right, the financial aspect of this crime and any crime is important, to follow the money to see what was coming in. And that Wells Fargo data that we received from the FOIA request in PDF format does show, I think, 7 straight months of checking statements, bank statements, checking accounts and whatnot. So police, the detectives did go and retrieve all those statements up until the deaths, and I think they went back 7-8 months.
Were those statements
Sophia?
Were those statements tied to both David and Kamel's checking account, or was there one that was more than the other? I really haven't gone thoroughly through.
To
I
me,
think there was,
it looks like,
Sophia would know, I think.
to me, it looks more like a joint account, because you're seeing transfers from a different account for both David and Kamel into this one account. So you will see like payments for certain items and for the house payment being taken out of this account, but they were transferring money from other accounts.
Yeah,
I don't have that.
I think they had multiple Wells Fargo accounts that were connected to each other, so they could go online for online banking and just click one account onto the next and do a transfer. It appears the monthly mortgage was being paid out of Kamel's account, I think, and then she was making that one payment twice a month, broken down into 2 payments a month to cover that. So you do see the statements of the bills being paid, the groceries being paid, the utility bills, the mortgages, and the mortgage, not plural, of that activity. And so they did have a multitude of accounts, and Kamel was running her side business or businesses, and so was David. So they had a lot of activity, but for the most part, it showed the consistent behavior, financial behavior, that was within the realm of what we're dealing with here. A young couple with a child trying to make ends meet. They weren't broke, they were not wealthy, but the word I would say is they were very. They did their due diligence on a monthly basis. There was signs of checklists of utility payment dates and things like that. So they were very prudent, I'll call it.
Yeah, and you can see her name is on this box of checks here, Komel. So it's definitely labeled there. Anything else on the checkbook there, or else I'm gonna issue my own fact checker statement here regarding this.
All right, I'll go.
Go ahead.
I'll go to the last paragraph here for the chapter. It should be noted that items 46, 47, and 48 were unintentionally photographed and may have been the known writing samples mentioned in the reports. Regardless, according to the BCA documents, quote, handwriting comparisons of the questioned writing will not be conducted at this time, end quote.
Okay, so that's where the fact checking came in, because I wanted to see what was I taught. Why would I say that they were unintentionally photographed? So that sentence, I'm gonna update this book, and that sentence will be taken out because that is not accurate. That is not right. The reason that I thought that 46, 47, and 48 were unintentionally photographed was because I had misread this line here. And I want to thank everybody for pointing that out to me too, because where was it here? There was something, notepad on the refrigerator. There was somewhere here, 48, here it is. Item 48, item 46-48, not placed. Now I thought that said not planned. So I did, that is a big blunder, big thing that I will make sure to take out of that book. And so far, that's the biggest thing that I found in this book that I've gotten wrong. But I do want to thank everybody for helping me see that this says not placed, whereas I thought it said not planned. And so they had those known writing samples. How difficult would it have been for them to run some tests? Could we run some tests? Could we hire somebody to run some tests based on what we have here? Any thoughts on that?
I really wish that they would have done some handwriting samples. It just seems like the more pertinent parts of the case, they were either extremely lazy or deliberately didn't follow through. And it's frustrating.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
And since we have those handwriting samples and they have them, maybe we can still do something with them at some point. That's about all I got for this one. We've finished the kitchen chapter. Anybody have any final words on the kitchen?
Nope, I'm good.
Any questions from those on the live stream?
I think they're all just listening and just kind of watching and pretty much agreeing that a lot of this stuff just does not make sense, which we could see, just in these, just in this one room, just in this kitchen, we can see how much stuff just does not make sense, just does not add up. And of course, people can call us second guessers. We're second guessing on everything, and you're not investigators, all this stuff, but these are all things. I mean, that doesn't help the investigators if just us regular people can look at this stuff and see all of these different things that should have been and could have been done and could still be done and might help actually prove some of their theories, especially if they're going to say that David Crowley wrote anything handwritten in this house. If they're going to say that David Crowley wrote the note in the office bedroom, which by the way will be the next podcast, we'll be going through the office bedroom and all of that stuff. So they had everything that they needed to run some samples. Is it a cost thing? Is it too costly? Why not run any samples? Were they scared of what they might find or what they might not find?
Right, and especially since they are trying to say, or maybe they actually do come out and say, that David did write that note in the office and stuff. One would assume that the right thing to do would then be compare the handwriting, so they can say, yes, it's backed up, yes, we know it's been done, but they can fall onto their, well, this is what we're going to say, with absolutely nothing to back up their assumptions.
Mm-hmm. That's it. All right, well, that's all I got. Look forward to our next show next month. That would be, let's see, this one will come out December 1st, so the next one, The Office Bedroom, will be covered on the January 2021, as long as we survive 2020. That will come out here on January 1st. And that'll be our 12th show. So we've pretty much we've done a year's worth of shows so far, and we're only on page 54 of a 200-page book, so still a long way to go.
These are good, Greg, because I know myself I'm learning something new on each one of these podcasts, and I've already read the book and I've covered the case and looked at all this already, but at least one thing always raises my antenna on each one of these shows, so they are very helpful. All right, guys, gotta run.
Bye, Dan.
Have a great trip.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Dan.
Bye.
And if anyone in the chat room has anything that they want to add, I'm just going to go and kind of look in. I know Ellie is, still saying this doesn't make sense. So much evidence that has not been used to convict him was either not collected or tested, left out. Yeah, I mean, that's it, and we're going to see that constantly throughout this podcast here. That's all that we keep seeing, is all the stuff that was left out. No dog feces tests, no just a quick guess that David Crowley was guilty. And some of the things that we had asked, obviously, well, okay, David wrote notes. They must have some type of proof that David wrote these notes in this house, or wrote anything in the house as far as these 3 crime scene notes. And we don't see that. And they have everything. It's not like they don't have, these are the most important things here. These are things that would quickly prove or disprove their case. So that's why we're all kind of wondering, well, maybe they didn't do these things because it doesn't fit into their theory. Alright, it looks like that's about it. So no other questions, nothing else in the chat. I definitely want to thank everybody for joining us in this live chat with no notification or anything like that. Wasn't sure if we were going to do this live or not, but Catherine, Sophia, I really appreciate you both joining us for this podcast. I do want to schedule in the next week or two maybe a follow-up podcast with Stephen Sanzeri, and I'd like to hear some of his views on Kenneth Maines, the private investigator. So Stephen has read through it. He's not very happy, I could tell you that. But I don't really know too many people who have read Kenneth Maines' 40-page report. Not too many people who have read it are happy with what Kenneth Maines did, how he went about it, what he found, and the lack of content that he added to it, that he added to this case for us. I think some people who believe that the official theory is true just kind of cut to that chase. All they wanted to do was make sure that Kenneth Maines went there, and it didn't matter how Kenneth Maines got there. So that's really sad, because that's not the way that an investigation should be done. People who think that this is a clear-cut case, that David Crowley is guilty, you should really think about that. Think about that this could happen to you too. This could happen to your family, and how would you want to be treated? How would you want your family members to be treated? The way you treat others is very important when you think about what happens to you. Alright, so this is podcast number 11. This was The Kitchen. We're going to come back next month for podcast number 12, and we'll go through the office bedroom. And I can already tell that the office bedroom is probably going to require two chapters, or two podcast shows, possibly. But then we got the master bedroom. We'll go through that, and then it gets pretty crazy. Then we're going to get to the suspicious activity that happened on January 19th, where a bunch of David Crowley's quote-unquote friends are in the house. They're not in the house. There's reports that David's brother and his dad are there. They're not there. There's a bullet. They don't see the bullet hole. Nobody sees anything. And so we're going to get into all of that. But I think up until this point, it's been relatively calm. It's been, yeah, you know, there's a lot of weird things happening, but it gets pretty crazy, and a lot of the stuff that happens even after this book ends is even crazier. So we'll keep you all posted with that. I just want to say thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you Ellie, thank you Stephanie, and everybody else. Jet Petty, really appreciate that. And Nova Coco, we're going to be saying a prayer for you too, as always. And really appreciate you all joining, and until next time, I'm going to shut this down.